Okay, so today we're going to explore the intricate structure and function of the nervous system. I know, doesn't that sound pretentious? The idea is that we want to look at the anatomical and physiological divisions of the overall nervous system. So obviously we're going to be looking at central and peripheral nervous system components, roles, um, whatever it takes to control those body functions. So we want to start off understanding what the key anatomical divisions of the nervous system are. It's really the foundation to the whole functionality of the nervous system. So that's why this module is really important. We're going to look at structural classification and key components of central and peripheral nervous system in this first part. So the nervous system is anatomically divided into the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, composed of nerves and sensory receptors that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. Notice once we kind of introduced, we'll start using the abbreviations a lot more. Central nervous system is the CNS, and peripheral nervous system would be the PNS. So the brain and spinal cord form the core of the central nervous system, the CNS. They coordinate and integrate sensory information and initiate responses. The brain controls higher functions like thoughts and emotions, while the spinal cord manages reflexes and transmits signals. So if I were drawing a flow chart, I would have nervous system as our initial box, and then branching off of that, I would have central and peripheral nervous systems. And then I would take central nervous system and have two boxes branching off, one for the brain and one for the spinal cord. The PNS, or peripheral nervous system, consists of cranial and spinal nerves and sensory receptors. It links the central nervous system to limbs, organs. It facilitates sensory input and motor output. So it's making it possible to communicate between the body and the brain. And so my PNS I would be taking, and that's the one we're going to do a lot more divisions on as we go through this process. But that's kind of our anatomical differences with central and peripheral. So looking more specifically at the central nervous system in terms of structures and functions, the brain, which is divided into regions like the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the brainstem, will do a little more focus when we move into our structure, our sense organs and structures. We'll also do some stuff with the brain when we do that unit. But all of these parts are designed to process the complex information that's coming from all over the body. Spinal cord is more of a conduit for signals, and it's in control of a lot of our reflex actions. So that whole concept of if you reach out and grab a hot pan, you'll immediately let it go. Reflex actions. So the CNS integrates sensory data received from the PNS, processes it to form perceptions, and generate appropriate motor commands. So this is all about maintaining homeostasis and coordinating bodily functions. Higher brain functions, such as memory formation, reasoning capabilities, and emotional responses, are governed by specialized brain areas, supporting complex human behaviors and cognition. And that's the big thing, is our brain is so detailed and so complex. That is what basically gives us the ability to behave, to function, to process, to be as we are as human beings. And we're moving into the peripheral nervous system focus. So here we'll get a lot more divisions as we go along in terms of a flow chart. The PNS includes 12 pairs of cranial nerves, 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and numerous sensory receptors that detect environmental changes. The PNS serves as the communication network that conveys sensory input to the CNS and carries motor commands from the CNS to muscles and glands, enabling the body's response. So this is the part where we gather information from the environment, and this is the part where we send signals that tell us what to do, and the central is the part where we figure it all out. We process it, we look for those patterns, all of that kind of stuff. So sensory neurons transmit information about stimuli to the central nervous system, while motor neurons send signals from the central nervous system to effectors. This is kind of coordinating our voluntary and involuntary actions. So then we look at physiological divisions of the peripheral nervous system. And like I said, remember, we're going to make more divisions. So we have our somatic nervous system. Sometimes you'll see it listed as SNS. And this manages voluntary movements by controlling skeletal muscles and mediating conscious sensory input such as touch and pain. So this is somatic is the voluntary, the one that you're kind of selecting, somatic selecting. The autonomic nervous system regulates involuntary functions like heart rate, digestion, and respiratory rate, ensuring the body's internal environment remains stable. So autonomic, I think of as auto as it does it itself. So these are the non-voluntary aspects. These are the ones that we don't have to actually think about to make it happen, because we've talked about this before, but if you had to think about regulating your heart rate and telling your digestive system to break down the food you eat and making sure you're remembering to say to breathe every so often so you don't run out of oxygen, you basically could not maintain life. So this does, your system does it automatically. Hence the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. So examples include the somatic system controlling muscle contractions during walking, while the autonomic system adjusts heart rate during rest or exercise. So it highlights their distinct yet complementary roles. So we've got the voluntary that are helping us actually do the movement, and we've got the autonomic, which are controlling our heart rate, our respiration, those things that are needed to meet that. So the autonomic nervous system, that involuntary one, can be further divided. So we have two divisions here. We have the sympathetic division, which prepares the body for stressful or emergency situations by increasing heart rate, dilating airways, and redirecting blood flow to muscles. So this is our fight or flight, or I often refer to it as the a bear walks into the room. What are you going to do in that emergency or stressful situation? This is the one that is focused on that. This is also the one that sometimes when people live in a highly stressful situation through a lot of times in their life, it tends to be more predominant, which actually can cause a lot of problems. This is designed that it's only supposed to come and go as needed, but if it's being overused, it can actually lead to health issues. The other division is the parasympathetic division. This is the restorative process. It slows the heart rate, enhances digestion, conserving energy during restful states. So this one is the one that most people think of as kind of the normal state. This is you're just sitting there, you're chilling. This is your day-to-day, should be your day-to-day normal restful situation, not your emergency situation. So, for example, physiological changes include pupil dilation during sympathetic activation and constriction during parasympathetic activation, exemplifying the dynamic regulation of body function. So we find that a lot of times what's happening during rest stages is going to be kind of different or often opposite of what happens during a stress situation. And so here just kind of gives you a base flow chart to work for as you create your own.